Welcome to another episode of Chad and Steve Have a Podcast. In this episode, we're really excited to talk to Tim Schmoyer from Video Creators. We're going to talk about this feeling of kind of losing your identity on YouTube and how burnout affects almost every creator at some point to some degree. We'll talk about growing a YouTube business and when you need to just kind of disconnect. And we get to hear a little bit about Tim's woodworking experience. Ooh, I'm excited about that. Let's get started.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Steve. And I will also take this opportunity to welcome all of you to Chad and Steve Have a podcast mostly about YouTube from the perspective of a couple of content creators who have been doing this YouTube thing for about a decade each. I am Chad. I'm the Chad part of the podcast. My name is Chad Reynolds. I am the co-creator and executive producer of Clean My Space. The Steve part of the podcast is played effortlessly by Steve Ramsey, who is the creator, host, cameraman, editor, gaffer, producer, writer.
I think I'm a one-man show, pretty much. You know,
and hairstylist of Woodworking for Mere Mortals. And this is an extra special episode of Chad and Steve Have a Podcast because we have our very first guest, a very special guest. So we're excited and equally nervous about that. So let's see how it goes. Our guest on the podcast today is a true YouTube OG, the first person you would go to if you need advice on growing your YouTube channel or your online business for that matter. And by far the most must-see person at any YouTube conference that you can go to. Give it up for the one and only Mr. Tim Schmoyer.
This is where we insert. This is where we need the audio.
So the applause here and some fireworks.
I'm glad this is being recorded now. My gosh, thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool to have you on the podcast. If I could jump in before you start talking too, is that you have been instrumental in just helping to grow my channel as well as, thousands of other people. You're kind of like, everybody knows Tim. Everybody on YouTube pretty much knows Tim Schmoyer is the guy who can help them grow their YouTube channel.
So
I feel we should do a group hug.
All right, big virtual group. Let's rewind, actually. So let's start way back. I want to hear about your first experience on YouTube. I kind of know it because we've clearly talked quite a bit. I know about a first date video, which happened in 1992 or whenever that was uploaded. Anyways, go deep on that.
I was 12 years old then. So I was in graduate. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, guys. This is fun. I started on YouTube back in 2006. I was in graduate school down in Dallas, Texas. And I started this blog just because this is pre-Facebook days. MySpace was around, but I never got into MySpace. It seemed a little bit too shady to me. And I was hearing all these stories about social media. I don't even know if social media is a word then, but if you post your real name on the internet, people will hunt you down and kill you for some reason. I was just like, okay, well, I didn't want that to happen, so I didn't post my name. But I was dating this girl, and I wanted a way of introducing her to my family back home, halfway across the country in Philadelphia area. And so I was writing about her on this little blog and sending those links back to my family, emailing them. And then I saw this thing called YouTube, and I was like, oh, I could just make a video of her and put that on here. And so my very first video was March 2nd, 2006. It was just a 30-second long video called Test Video. So, I put a lot of creative energy into this thing. I really just wanted to know, could I get footage off of an 8mm Firewire camera? You guys remember those?
Sure. I had a Firewire cam. My goodness.
I still have it, actually. It's up on the shelf in my office. But Firewire is a way cooler name than what it actually was. But anyway, so and I figured it out. I got it off my camera. I got it on to YouTube and published it. And then I'm like, okay, so I took that little 8mm camera and we just went out and made videos of us going out on dates, going out to the park, going out to eat. Today, we would know them probably as vlogs, but back then that wasn't a word. It was just being awkward in public with a camera, And so we had fun though. I posted videos on YouTube, send the link back to my family, embed them in my blog. But then other people started watching, and I was like, whoa, who is Cat Licker 72?
That was Steve, actually.
It was me.
I was like, are they gonna kill me? Like, should I be concerned? Like, and then more people started watching. I'm like, where are these people coming from? Why are they finding me? How are they finding me? Why are they watching? Why do they keep coming back? And I was just mostly out of concern, but also out of curiosity, like what was going on here. So I reached out to some other creators back then. YouTube, it wasn't an industry or anything. It was very small, and everyone who was publishing videos knew everybody. So I just started reaching out to those other people, being like, do you know how this is happening? Is this working? And they're like, we don't know, Tim. We're trying to figure it out. But if you figure it out, let us know. And so I was like, all right, I'll do that. And so I started diving in, trying to figure out how people were finding videos, how the system worked. And started my girlfriend and I ended up getting married. We kept making videos, and everything from our first our engagement to our wedding, our honeymoon, first house, first job, and at that time we were doing about 1 million views a month, which was unheard of for then on YouTube. And people are like, how are you doing it? And I was kind of starting to figure a few things out. In fact, not a lot of people know this. I don't usually share this part of the story, but YouTube at that time was contracting me to train their employees how YouTube worked.
Huh.
And so they weren't bought by Google yet at this point. They were still just kind of like the startup type of thing, and they were hiring like crazy, but people knew what was happening in their own little silos. But I was the guy they were using who understood kind of how the whole platform worked from a higher level. And so I don't do that anymore today, although I did somewhat recently write the curriculum that they use to train their creators, but that's another story. So so we started just helping other people then, like, understand how YouTube worked. And the thing I loved about it the most was that I was a youth and family worker at the time, and I just loved seeing people's lives just changed and impacted by what I was doing, working with about 80 students a week. And there were certainly some good stories coming out of that, but I was hearing more and more stories from what my wife and I were doing on YouTube about, like, my wife and my husband and I just got married, and we're already struggling in our relationship. I don't know if we're going to make it. But then I watched that video of you and your wife talking about how you're just learning to love each other better. I shared it with my husband and just wanted to let you know, like, we talked about it and we have hope again for our marriage. Just want to say thank you. And people who are like, I didn't grow up with a mom, but because I've been watching your videos, like, I'm getting married now in 2 months, and now I feel like I know what it takes to be a good wife and a good mother one day. Just thank you. And like people who didn't commit suicide because of videos. And I was just like, man, if I really want to reach people and change their lives, YouTube is the platform I can do that at scale. And so I really decided, like, I wanted to dive in to this YouTube thing, and make a long story short, ended up doing it professionally full-time for a video agency here in Cincinnati. And then after that, I ended up starting my own business here at Video Creators, and where we work with clients and creators and brands. We've done YouTube strategy for Disney, for Warner Brothers, for HBO, Budweiser, eBay. We just wrapped up with MTV and earlier this year, and Twitch, and just like all these massive brands, Amazon, YouTube themselves, and all the way down to like creators who are just getting started, and with this mission of how do we reach more people, change their lives with the messages that we're spreading on YouTube, and grow businesses, sustainable businesses around it that make our content like sustainable long-term, and ways that also take care of our own families. So it's been quite a journey. We're responsible for about 17 billion views and 17 million subscribers that of views that we can actually take credit from our clients. So it's been quite a journey, and now I get to hang out with cool people like Chad and Steve and just talk.
It's an amazing story you have. And I think that you early on recognized what the value of YouTube is in it, and helping people achieve something different than they thought they wanted to achieve. In other words, people often think, well, I just want to get more followers, or I want to get more views. And while that's part of it, there's really a bigger mission that you have there. And I think that the fact that you recognize that early on, I think I first ran across your videos when you were doing real SEO. And was that the Cincinnati
No, that
company you
was
were
actually, I
talking about?
skipped that part. Yeah. So what happened there was Real SEO is one of the guys I reached out to. I'm like, how's this YouTube thing working? And they're like, we're trying to figure it out. It's him and Mark Robertson and a bunch of other guys. And I met Mark then at the second annual VidCon and I was like, dude, like, I love your site but like, you don't do anything with video. You should do something with a video. And she's like, yeah, like, so I pitched him a few ideas. She's like, can you shoot some pilots for me? And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I shot some pilots. He liked them. We ended up doing them. And then I, for better or worse, ended up becoming the face of Real SEO as he contracted me to make the videos for his brand.
It seem like it was kind of getting some overlap at some point with the videos you were making for video creators in Real SEO.
Yeah, that I wasn't planning on starting video creators. Actually, I started it because at that time Real SEO was struggling, and I knew that this wasn't going to be around forever. And they were later acquired by Tubular Labs, but I knew that like I need to get something going on for my own. Plus, at that time I was doing the strategy for the agency and their clients. And I knew that job was also about to wind down. And so they told me, Tim, we love you. You've done a good job here, but you have 6 months and we're going a different direction as a company. And so that's when I started Video Creators, and I knew I had 6 months to turn this into a full-time gig. So there was some overlap there, but yeah, I did. I turned it into a full-time gig in 6 months.
Hey, go ahead, Chad.
This was 2013?
2013 is when I started Video Creators, yeah.
What was it like to speak to people about what did you tell people that you were doing in 2013? I mean, in 2013, we had like 25,000 subscribers. That was big enough for us to get invited to Brandcast, and like YouTube, like the whole kind of platform operated differently back then. So the thought of like doing this and like making a career of it, how would you go about, what was your first experience like with video creators in 2013, based upon like not many people thinking that this is a reality for like, you know, that this is a business that can be started?
In 2013, there was a partner program. Like Google had bought it by then, and the partner program was a thing. And so there were people making money on it, but it wasn't like every kid wanted to be a YouTuber yet back then. I actually started Video Creators primarily to work with people like you guys who were serious about the platform and wanted to grow. Not necessarily, in my mind then, I wasn't really thinking about marketing and like, yeah, that kind of stuff. It was more about the homegrown creator who was just trying to build an audience, and they are figuring out on their own how to monetize it. So that's kind of, yeah, it was more about like the entertainers on the platform back then.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think everybody on YouTube knows you though. How does it feel to be in that position? Where I mean, seriously,
I think in our bubble that might be true, but I don't. I mean, there's 2 billion active logged in users on YouTube.
They all know
month.
you.
So
2 billion people. That's pretty funny. Hey, can I say that your studio there looks outstanding? Oh my God, that looks so
Thank you.
So good.
What professional company did you contract to do all of that work?
It was me. Yeah. So actually what I did is I'm not really handy. And
your studio says otherwise.
Well, what I did was my previous office, you can kind of, if you guys, I know the audio people might not see this, but video people, you can see that like it used to be over in this corner, and it was 94 inches by 110 inches was my audio. It's an old, the previous owners had a dog kennel out here in the garage. And so that was my workspace. I couldn't really shoot in it. And so I was shooting in a different room in the basement. I knew I wanted to blow this out into one of the garage stalls and make it bigger, turn it into something I was envisioning. And so I didn't have any handy skills, but I wanted to learn because I learned from Steve. And honestly, like I've told Steve this, I'm not just, saying this because I'm on this podcast. I got started in woodworking and went through his first course, Weekend Woodworker, and then Powered Up. And that gave me the tools, not literally, metaphorically, to feel like I was equipped to do this. And so I knew I could learn how to frame and run electric and everything. But so what I did is there was a friend of ours whose wife wanted to go through Video Labs, And so I made, which is one of my online courses, is kind of like a small group coaching context. And I gave her free access to Video Labs in exchange for him helping me build this out. And so he's a certified electrician. I've got like 21 different lighting things going on around up here.
Wow.
I got like 14 different switches over there. And so I can set the lighting up to be a lot of different things.
That's bigger than our apartment was in San Francisco. I mean,
is it? Yeah, it's 20 by 17 now.
That's amazing. So, but Tim, it really makes me feel good to say that, or to hear you say that about my courses. But it was interesting because how this all is kind of circular. It was really you and your videos and your whole concept of what YouTube could be, which inspired me to understand that people want to learn woodworking, not just to learn woodworking, that there's a deeper meaning to that. And that's always what I've kind of like fed into, is that this is going to give you purpose in your life. And this is something that you can enjoy on weekends. And then with that, I was like, well, then I can create a course that is just about people who can spend a weekend doing some woodworking and learn more about themselves in the process. And a lot of that came from your wisdom.
Yeah, well, thank you. Woodworking to me, not to get too sappy on you guys, but like, I'll be totally honest. Okay. I don't know if I can do that here, or I'm sure I can, but it just feels a little weird because I don't usually do this on podcasts with people. But with you guys, I think I can. As a guy who works really hard, my wife and I have 7 kids in 8 years. We've got a large-ish family. We've got a business to run, marriage to work on. Like we've got so much going on that I had kind of lost. Like videos at first for me were like a way I could express myself creatively and feel good about something I was making. But then it turned into a job, and it's a job I enjoy, but it's still work, and I needed I needed to disconnect from that in order to find life in something else. And woodworking for me turned out to be the thing that actually helps me like feel centered, helps me kind of rejuvenate, helps me, I don't know, like whenever I get a chance to use a table saw, I'm just like, watch my fingers and this feels good. But yeah, and I don't think I would have gotten into that if it wasn't for your course. I tried a few things with woodworking, but the course is what the not woodworking for mortals, the Weekend Woodworker is what gave me this confidence to start and to try. I mean, there's lots of YouTube videos, but what you do in that course is walk it through. You can build this, but you're building this more for the sake of learning. And I'm going to teach you these skills. We're just going to happen to learn it on this thing that you could use in your house. And watching that was like, I learned about stop blocks from you. I learned about like all these things that like just made it possible for me to go do that. And so now it's still a very therapeutic release for me to do that.
Are you are you noticing other YouTubers, people who've been at it for a while, who are kind of facing that same kind of thing where it's like, I've been doing this for a while. I even do it professionally. And yet I feel like I need a new outlet. I know I can probably speak for Chad here too, that this podcast is exactly what I needed to kind of give me that, I don't know, diversity of something in my life to do.
Yeah, I think it's whether it's YouTube or whatever. There's some people like me and probably like you guys. I think it's kind of true for entrepreneurs and creators in general, is like you really get attracted to the challenge of it at first. And then the challenge just kind of like goes away after a little bit. And then I get like, I know that sounds really conceited to say, but like, so I kind of scratch that itch with like, okay, growing the business, that's a new challenge for me. And then like, oh, I'm working with this client's got like this really big issue. That's a new challenge for me. But eventually, like, I just need a different challenge. And woodworking was a new outlet, a new challenge for me. And people are like, oh, I post on Instagram. People are like, that looks so amazing. You should make a woodworking channel. I'm like, no way. That would make it feel like work again.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I keep the camera out of here on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, I have kind of a similar thing. Sometimes people ask me, "Well, is woodworking still fun now that it's a full-time job?" And I'm like, "Well, it is because actually I don't do a whole lot of woodworking. Most of it's video work is what I do. The video has
Exactly.
become
Yeah.
the full-time job." Yeah.
Yeah. Or for me, it's like we have 9 people on my team now, and managing the team means I don't really do much with YouTube or clients anymore. I do a little bit, but for the most part, I'm just managing the team and playing that CEO role of vision casting and direction heading, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I appreciate your course, Steve. It was really good for me.
Thank you.
We can all change
So
each other's lives in different ways.
it's very true. 7 kids, a wife, several businesses. You go around and you speak regularly at conferences, or at least did kind of pre-COVID, I'm sure. How does one, outside of woodworking, how does one find balance? What has burnout really overwhelmed you? Has burnout, gotten to the point with you at some point where it felt like it was going to break you, or you just wanted to get away from everything?
That's where I'm at right now. Yep. It hit me physically, emotionally, last Thursday.
Hmm.
I was in bed, woke up at like, I'm one of those guys, like last time I was at the doctor, it was 4 years ago. So I don't probably go as often as I should actually. And this has been a very stressful season for us, not just due to COVID, just things happening in the business and in our family and things like that. And uh, I don't feel stress, but apparently my body does, because I woke up last Thursday at 5 in the morning. I was dreaming that I had swallowed a pencil sideways and it was sticking out of my stomach. I don't know how graphic you want me to get. I basically ended up feeling like someone was stabbing me in the stomach from the outside, inside out.
Right.
And I tried to go to the bathroom. There was nothing like there. And I was doubled over and I was like, I need to go to the ER. Like something's, I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
And I woke up my wife. I'm like, I need help. I was like crawled over bed. I'm like, I need help. She said, what are you doing? Like, she's like, call this creepy. I was like crawling on the floor in the dark, next to her bed in the morning, but her side of the bed. And she called the doctor. Long story short is like this, eventually after about half hour started subsiding. And the doctor's like, you need to come get that checked out. So I did go to checked out. Also started talking with a counselor, therapist person. And the short story is like, we take a regular like day of rest every Saturday, Friday night to Saturday as a family. But other than that, I've kind of lost who Tim Schmoyer is, just to be honest. It's kind of like your whole identity ends up getting wrapped up in your work and in your family. And my counselor was like, when was the last time you did something just for Tim? Like I was like, 11 years ago, before my daughter was born, I bought a bike because I was really into biking in high school and still love it. And I put like 700 miles on that bike in 3 months. And then I've done like 700 miles total since then, 11 years now. And like I used to, like, whether it's video games, I don't know. So where I'm at right now is both the doctor, so some blood work and things, and the therapist were like, you need to take some time off. You need to disconnect. And so 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be taking about 3 or 4 weeks off completely, just totally disconnecting from the internet, from work, from business, from my wife and I are going to go do a 2-day trip together. The first time we spent alone time together overnight on a trip in 10 years. We're
Wow.
going to go to New England and check out some lighthouses, do a helicopter ride around, checking those things out. We're going to, plan a backpacking trip with some guys, some good friends of mine here. I just need to get out. I just need to disconnect and reset and try to figure out, what do I like? One, how do I take care of myself so that I can continue to be healthy for my family, for my wife, for my business, for the other families who's like, they depend on our family for income, so I kind of forgot somewhere along the way that I got to take care of myself, or I won't be any good to anyone else. So I'm really looking forward to taking that break, just time off. And it's kind of the scary part. I don't even know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't even know what I do for fun anymore outside, like woodworking. But even in woodworking, I still kind of feel like I'm doing something productive for my family.
And you're doing it for your show, building this.
Yeah, and as much as like I like doing it, and I really do, and it is therapeutic for me, but I think I need to do something that's non-productive. Like it intentionally needs to be just quote unquote a waste of time. And I'm not sure what to do, but that's where I'm at.
Whittling, playing banjo, like just something which is just something. Because you know what? It creeps up on you. It crept up on, like it happened to me several times. And even when it happened the first time, I'm like, I'm never going to let that happen. I'm going to be very much in tune. Your life gets so sucked into to doing this. And I'm sure everybody in everybody's work space feels kind of the same way, but it's just so all encompassing that you can't watch anything without somehow turning it into like, oh, this would make a good YouTube video or this whatever. And then it's also fueled by all of those people who send emails and are like, hey, you really helped me. So now there's this wonderful responsibility to be like, I want to keep giving for others, but man, we often lose sight of ourselves. And you wake up and you have a pencil sideways in your esophagus.
Exactly.
And it's a fitting analogy for like what it's like, because you literally do just wake up one day and you realize it's too late and it's like, oh, now I need to do something. And I kept sabotaging all of those things which were outside of YouTube and outside of Clean My Space and outside of like everything that we do business wise. I was like, I'm going to start doing gardening, or I'm going to start doing whatever. And then I infected all of that by being like, and I'm going to make videos about me learning how to do it.
Right.
So I went through a couple of years ago, and part of the process was me going through and doing some projects around the house, and I filmed them. I turned it into a series of honey-do list videos, which I put out there. And I was like, wow, this is really great. I did some stuff and I created. And I was going to go through and do it again. And I realized that I couldn't do it that way because that was taking away what I actually wanted to do. It needed to be separate from all of this. You were speaking about the woodworking, like it's completely separate. I can't somehow parlay this into like, oh, what would make a good title for this? Or I have to go set up the camera to do this. And it just infects everything else. And it's really hard to separate out, you, Tim, where's Tim? What does Tim actually want selfishly? Something that doesn't need to be productive or being done for someone else. What does Tim want to do for himself? And it takes your therapist asking that sometimes.
I kind of think we're going to just see more and more of this as YouTube ages and is getting, we're up to 15 years old now of YouTube. And I think we're already starting to see more and more creators who are just kind of pulling the plug and they're like, that's it, I'm done. And I'm moving on to other things. I think this is a topic that definitely probably demands more attention, of catching the signs of that before it gets to the point where you release that tear-jerking video of this is my last video, I am done. I think we got to start to recognize those signs, because we've all felt it there. I'm kind of like you, Tim. I'm kind of in that situation right now where I still love what I'm doing, but I'm also in this transitional phase where I was doing so much work during all of the lockdown and the COVID, and now I'm kind of trying to transition out of that and just trying to find that way. And I still want to make people happy.
Yeah, I think it's just a human thing. I think for us to lose ourselves in something that, especially something that we love, like for me, even my family, like I was talking to my wife about this and my therapist earlier today, which was like my wife and I need to have our own identities, but of course they overlap a lot because we're married and we have a family. But I feel like my identity has been like eclipsed by the families, because I work out here in my office during the day, and then I go back in and kind of take over for her so she can have a break. And now I'm in dad mode until the kids are in bed. And then my wife and I hang out for a little bit before then we both go to sleep, and we do the same thing. And I'm like, when does Tim just need to like keep his identity? I honestly don't yet know how we're going to balance all of this. Like it was kind of a juggle before, and now I got to add on like selfish time somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I know I'm just going to start with a couple week break and I'll go from there.
Did you ever realize that your business would grow the way it has? I mean, it has really been a pretty good trajectory moving up on how you've expanded it. And was that kind of your goal at the beginning? And did you realize that this would be, at this point, we're like, wow, this is a lot. I've got people depending on me.
Having company retreats and stuff.
Yeah, those are fun. I like those. Uh, no, I mean, I don't know anything about business. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't know anything about business. I got all my degrees and background are in theology, so like nothing super practical, and it's like getting an English degree, I guess. But uh, I uh, I knew I needed to turn it into something. I thought there was an opportunity, but I didn't know how far it would go, to what extent, and uh, we've been doubling in revenue almost every year since we started. Now the first couple of years that doesn't really matter because you went from like 10,000 to 20,000, woohoo, but yeah, I was just thinking at it earlier, where it's like 67% growth over the past 12 months.
Amazing.
That's remarkable.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that comes with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, all good. It's like good problems. And I love actually paying people. It's like one of my favorite, it real honestly is like doing payroll is one of my favorite things to do. I feel like it's such a good exchange where you served our clients really well. You served my family really well. And now I get to serve your family really well. I love it. But when you have a team, people are human, and sometimes there's issues and things get complicated, and there's, so I don't mind managing all of it, but it's just, I need a whole new skill set than I thought I was needed when I first started, which was help people grow on YouTube. Now I've got other people doing that I've trained. And now my main skill set is how do I manage people and a team and get the business moving forward. So,
and the podcast too. Your podcast is going gangbusters.
The podcast has grown faster than my channel has for several years. I don't pay attention to the stats that closely, but I can look
we do.
But
we pay attention to ours. We
have them all here.
Yeah, I know some people do that with their YouTube channel too. They got like notifications for milestones reached, and I'm like, I don't even know how many subs I have. I haven't looked at it in so long. I feel like the car mechanic who drives the clunky car, because you're so used, you just spend all your day like time working in other people's cars that you never work on your own.
Right.
Sorry, Steve.
And yours is not the kind of channel that, well, I guess people in your space of like, you're offering advice on how to grow YouTube channels is not the kind of channel that itself is going to be a 20 million sub channel either. So it's kind of, you're in that space there where you can kind of just reconcile that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm not really trying to get a certain amount of views and subscribers. Actually, my goal is to get in front of the right people that I can serve the best. So most of the tools and videos out there, more views, more subscribers, more money, more of this stuff. But I think if you have more of a mindset where you genuinely, not that most people don't, but if you genuinely want to help people and serve people and grow a business around it, then it's better to be in front of 10 of the right people than a football stadium of the wrong people.
Right.
So we're more focused on like, who are our best, where do we do our best work? Who can we serve the best? And it typically is like the more established creator who has a business mindset around what they're doing. And they're not only trying to grow their audience, but they're trying to grow a business around it as well. And they're kind of in the early stages of that's where we tend to do our best work. So those people aren't always as active on YouTube as viewers as the super beginner people are. Yeah, but every niche and industry just has a certain like soccer on YouTube is like, what was it? It was like several billion views a month around soccer, but golf has 450 million a month around it, right? So there's just like, you're not going to grow as big of a channel in golf as you could around soccer. It's just, the audience isn't as big.
I took that to heart early on. It was one of the first kind of lessons I got from you and from your channel, was that you shouldn't be so concerned about the number of subscribers on your channel. You should really be concerned about who those subscribers are and who are the people, and not even the subscribers, but who are the people who are actually watching your videos, and how can you impact them? I think what happens is that the subscription number is really more of an ego number, and it's fueled by the social landscape, as it is even more so now than it has been in the past 5 or 6 years, of like, your whole self-worth seems to be predicated on how many followers you have.
We were looking back in the history books on the Wayback Machine, and we saw at one point way back in the day, we were looking at Steve's channel from like 2009 or whenever it was.
2009, yeah.
2009. And that's when they used to track the metric of how many videos you had watched. And Steve at the time had watched, I don't know how many.
It was over 9,000.
9,000.
It was one year I'd been on YouTube.
We were just thinking with people's like, just being so enamored by statistics, I wonder if they were to leave that or like put that back onto everybody's profile, and then there'd be a race to see who'd be the first person to watch, 10 million views or whatever that may be. And there'll be like now a chase to see who can watch the most videos. But you do kind of get wrapped up in the numbers. And it starts taking away from the fact that there's like actual people behind each of those numbers. So you get so dead set on like, oh, I have 5,000 subscribers and I launched a video and I only got 500 videos and that's only 10% of it. And it's like, man, you are so wrapped up in numbers as opposed to appreciating that 5,000 people took the time to watch what you are doing right now. And what can you learn and kind of take from that, as opposed to like worrying about how to double that number or whatnot.
Yeah. But doubling the numbers is what people want, at least out of the gate. And then it takes a little bit maturity and some longevity on the platform to be where you guys are at, which you're like, nope, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think anymore, the thing that I'm always kind of having to reel myself in and try not to be so concerned about it, the view counts. And it's just because, this year especially, I've kind of switched the way that I'm doing videos, and I'm kind of taking a more vlog style approach to them. And naturally the view counts have gone down, and so you start to look at those, you think, oh, nobody is watching as much. But what I've noticed is that the people who are watching are way more engaged than they used to be, and there's like much more interesting, friendlier discussion happening in the comments. And so that's the kind of thing that I really want to focus on. And it's hard though. It's hard to try to tell yourself they're just numbers. What's
the biggest challenge that you get when people come to you? What is overwhelmingly like the thing that is like the biggest challenge that creators are facing?
Like the thing they're trying to figure out how to overcome, and
what are they trying to fix, or what's the answer that they're turning to Tim for?
More and more recently has turned a little less into how do I get more views and subscribers, and a little bit more into how do I make more money. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I think you do need to use money. I think if money is the goal, then it could ruin your life. But money as a tool is amazing to reach more people and change more lives. So, so I think even established creators, like I worked with someone yesterday, they have about 250,000 subscribers, and they're making enough to support their family as well as 3 other people on their team who are doing production and editing and things like that. But they're like, we're kind of just breaking even on the channel, and we need to figure out how do we grow this in order to make more. So even when they want to grow it, it's more because we can make more money that way. But that's not always true. In fact, what our conversation went is like, I think your audience is already so engaged and you have a sizable audience. You just need a better sales funnel from your channel into like your products and services. It's just the customer journey has a lot of friction to it, and it's not really smooth for them to get from one place and take to the other and take that next step. And so in their case, I was like, I think you could just double your income just by fixing some of these friction points, and which they loved hearing. But so the solution isn't always more views and subscribers, but I think the more common thing is the business development side of being a creator. And even people who don't have sizable audiences, who only have like 2,000 or 3,000 subs, are making more and more. They're making considerable investments into a team, even when the channel's not earning anything yet, with the idea of like, I'm investing into my business and I intend to take a loss for a few years until it starts performing. So I have different thoughts about that, I suppose, but that's what's happening.
I think probably a lot of people come into YouTube with YouTube being the end game, and it's kind of a step, really. If you're going to try to make earn a living off of only YouTube, I mean, I guess you could do that. I'm sure people do that, but if you can, spread that out to other things and have YouTube as one component of that, you're going to do a lot better. And I think you're right with that, trying to get people into your sales funnel or lead magnet or wherever you can is always going to be a better solution.
And not doing it too many times. A few years ago, you did a channel analysis for us. And one of the most lasting pieces of advice that you gave us was at the end of our videos, having too many calls to action, telling people to do too many things. Hey, follow us on Instagram and her on Instagram and us together on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and be sure to go to makersclean.com and buy our microphone. And it was something that we took those last 20 seconds of an end card really seriously. And we had made it where we could fire off so many calls to action. You're just you're telling people to do 25 things,
right?
And you're kind of watering it down. So I know that was one of the obstacles that we faced, because we were literally trying to get everybody into the funnel, but we were doing it too much. And we were telling people to go and do too many things, and that ended up backfiring.
Yeah. The approach most people take it now, which is what this channel yesterday was doing. They were they were doing all these different sign-offs. They're giving too many signals at the end of the video. They're saying summarizing, wrapping up, hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. And there's all these signals this video is now over. You may safely abandon it. No additional value is coming. And you can see it right in your audience retention graphs. Every time, as soon as you start to feel like it's wrapping up, it's just boom. It's just the people just leave. And so no one was even getting to their call to actions, but then their call to action in every single video was and buy this thing and sign up. And I'm a customer journey, a good one, doesn't go straight for the sale every single time. The customer journey is I first discovered you, and then I'm watching more of your content. And now I kind of feel like I know you. I like you. I trust you. I feel like there's some relational equity being built here. I kind of feeling I'm hanging out with you. Oh, they have this thing I could buy. I'm interested in that now. But to go from you just discovered me to buy this thing,
buy my thing,
is a lot of friction. And most people don't take that journey. And it actually ends up sabotaging the video as well. Because if it does successfully end the viewing session, that's a pretty negative signal to YouTube systems, because they want to surface content that keeps people going longer on the platform, not necessarily hey, if we show people this video, they end up leaving, they don't come back. So
we had this
for someone else's video.
We had the same conversation a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Yeah, our podcast is 2 years old.
Years.
But we were talking about sponsorships and I kind of want to know your thought on this whole game and how it's developed about these in-video sponsored ads, for all the same ones you always see, the Squarespace, the Audible, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems like anymore, the creators are just are putting those at the very end of the video, and it's just like you were saying, and now a word from the sponsor, and as soon as I hear that, I'm like, click, that's the end of the video. Done. And I'm wondering,
you can click for that.
Is there I can't imagine sponsors and brands not understanding that that's kind of what's happening here. And at some point, for me, I was noticing that when I was doing those brand sponsorship deals, is that I could definitely know when people would drop out of the video when I would start doing those. And I could tell that that retention rate goes down. And when that goes down, that's not a good sign for YouTube. I think that they just kind of think, yeah, people don't like this video because they're just bailing from it. And I'm kind of wondering what you think the future of these kind of sponsored deals is.
I don't know that I know enough to know what the future of these kind of sponsored deals is something like that. I feel like it's different brands have different expectations and they want different things. Some brands will be willing just to pay a lot less just for it to be tacked on at the end of the video. But other brands are no, we don't want this to be a commercial or interruption. We want this to be a true integration, and where it's something, and they'll pay more for that. Right. And so different brands want different things. In fact, we worked with one brand, my family and I, just a few weeks ago, where they actually didn't even want to be on our channel. They just wanted to use our likeness in their television commercial that's coming out around the holidays. So they asked, can you shoot some clips of this for us to use in our commercial of your family doing these certain things? And we're like, well, and then we negotiated the price, and then we did it. And so I didn't have to edit. I just sent them the raw footage, and they're gonna do what they want with it, you know. So different brands want different things, and I think the brands are becoming more sophisticated in that they're not just looking at views and subscribers anymore, but actual engagement, and not engagement just in the comments, but like how engaged can this creator get people to be with our brand, and a
Right.
lot of other variables too. Like they want to be next to like a family friendly. Well, most brands want to be next to a family friendly brand. It's like, and especially one that has a clear, solid message behind it. And so there's a lot of different variables. But
Did
yeah,
you do one of those commercials last year? It seems like I remember seeing you on.
yeah, we were in a PNC Bank commercial. I can't say what the
Yeah.
next one is, but we were in a PNC Bank commercial, and we don't even use PNC Bank, but that was like 2 Christmases ago or something like that.
Yeah, I remember watching that TV and seeing a commercial, and it was you on there. I don't remember if it
You're
was you.
like, wait a minute, it's not YouTube.
That's crazy.
Well, in that case, all they wanted to do is license some of our existing vlog footage for their commercial. So we didn't have to
Right.
reshoot anything. I just had to send them the footage.
And I'm sure most of the people listening to this podcast know you from Video Creators, but you've been doing that vlog, your family vlog, for forever. I mean, like we were saying, from what, 2006, like right after YouTube.
Yeah, we went through a couple different phases. The more recent phase was that we shifted away from family stuff because my wife has, I should say, a big passion to help other moms, especially moms who are struggling and feel overwhelmed, and she wants them to help reclaim motherhood to be a blessing and not just like this draining thing. And when you have 7 kids in 8 years, you're forced to figure that stuff out a little bit more than
God.
maybe someone who has like 3 kids in 10 years or something. And so I think she really wanted to help other moms experience life in their motherhood journey. And so we went a different direction with it. We rebranded it to Reclaiming Motherhood, and it was still vlog, but it was vlogs around stories of how my wife, the tagline is like turning chaos into joy. And it's different things that she's doing, whether it be cleaning or organization or things like that, of like how that happens. And so, but that actually, she chose about 2 weeks ago to shut that down because like me, we're like, we got to start saying no to good things so we can say yes to the best things. And
I like that.
You like that? I made that up.
Yeah,
So
that's good. Did you
can
literally
use
just make that up, or
I-
I'm going to print
I
that
think
on
so.
a
I did.
pillow or something?
Pretty sure.
That should be
No,
on
yeah.
a candle.
It's going to be Tim's new line of merch.
That's right. You want to plug that?
Well, that's how my wife thought about it. Like, this is a good thing we're doing, and there's lots of good things that you can do. All of us can be doing, but we can't do all of them. And whenever we say yes to one thing, that means we have to say no to something else.
Yeah.
And because we all have limited capacity. And so she decided, like, I just can't keep doing this. It was finally making money for us. We finally like launched a online paid community around it, and people were signing up for it. It was like getting momentum. It was like, oh, this is going to be profitable finally, you know? And then we're like, oh, we don't have time to do this. Like we want to make sure that our kids are first, our family is first. And so, yeah, she shut it down. I think we'll be announcing that on the channel. We announced it to her private community and email list, but we're going to announce it on the channel probably next week or 2 here.
Wow, that's pretty big news. After you're going to keep the channel up, and
Yeah, I'll keep the channel up, and we might post to it once in a while if
Right.
we've got capacity to do so, but we're not going to stick with a schedule or anything like that.
That
yeah.
extra pressure of needing to do something. Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you notice any? What would you say is like the biggest kind of? And it's a hard question to ask. The biggest change you've seen in YouTube over the past, and I don't want to say the past 15 years because obviously those first 5 years don't really count because everything was so much different then. But say in the last 5 or 6 years, do you notice like any kind of overall changes in YouTube that stand out?
I think the biggest change is over the past 5 to 10 years is that it's been more legitimized. Did I say that word right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like in society and culture and in media in general, where in a world where like traditional media is really just kind of dogging on social media and putting it down. And then I remember it kind of stood out to me. Have you guys ever been to NAB out in Vegas?
Mm-mm.
No.
The National Association of Broadcasters. Well, it's like 120,000 person conference. It's like all the biggest in radio and television and the broadcast stuff are there. And so I was speaking there at doing like a new media presentation on YouTube several years ago, and I sat in a couple other sessions that that these bigger I'm trying to remember who it was. I probably shouldn't say their names if I did remember, but they're like the bigger media companies. And it's all of like these guys in like their late 50s, early 60s in suits, and they're all just kind of whining and complaining about the good old days when they had no competition, basically. and it was clear to me that none of them really understood it, and they didn't really want to. It was just that their business model wasn't working anymore because of this newfangled technology. And I kind of noticed, that's kind of when I felt it the most, is like they're spending their entire session on stage not talking about how they're moving forward. They're just talking about how they're complaining about what's not like working anymore. And that's when I knew like they're scared of this. Like this is really shaking them up, and they don't know how, they don't understand it. They don't know how to address it. And so one level it was kind of comforting. The other hand, it just kind of made me like, I am not in my normal element right here. So I think it's like the legitimization of more people watch YouTube than television by, I don't remember what the stats are, but a lot of the television networks are declining. They're still solid in the baby boomer type of generation who are still watching TV, but this next generation like just isn't. And they're consuming Netflix and stuff on demand on YouTube. So it's no longer the cat videos thing that it used to be.
I still watch cat videos.
Well, Steve, 98% of all cat videos on the platform is Steve Ramsey.
Is it
Kitty
Fluffy?
Liquor
Is that the name of
22,
your
I
cat?
believe. Is it?
Well, now I actually follow cat channels, So it's not just random cat videos. Hey, get with the times, Tim. It's cat channels. So that
My bad.
Do they have programs and Twitter accounts? And do they?
Actually, I follow a couple, but there's one, Kittysaurus. Man, do I love Kittysaurus. I love that channel so much. It's so funny. This is
Never seen it.
This is so bad.
So one of the things that TV studios used to do is take care of TV people. And one of the things that movie studios have always done is really take care of movie people. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. And I'd love to hear your opinion on whether or not you think YouTube does a good job of incubating the YouTube community. Or do you think that they were rather quick to jump on the, oh, Jimmy Fallon has, a 2-minute bit. Our trending tab is basically movie trailers and whatnot. And have they moved too far away from what the core was, what brought us all to the platform, in the beginning, which was for being able to broadcast yourself? Do you think they've moved
in YouTube?
Yeah, the you in YouTube. Do you think that they've kind of moved towards that, or at least how good of a job do you think they do on kind of incubating that audience?
Yeah, I know that team personally fairly well, and I know who those people are at YouTube who are overseeing those projects and what they're working on, and I talk with them somewhat regularly, not just professionally, but because they've kind of ended up being friends. And I am 100% confident that they are doing everything that they know they can do to serve a community of creators at scale. The difference is there's only so many people in the television and acting niches, and it's not growing nearly at the same rate as like an open platform where anyone can jump in and now is a part of this community. And it's not like the acting guilds and stuff where people are paying dues and fees to be a part of it and stuff like that. Like, so they have different resources and a smaller community of people to serve, and an area is generating a lot more revenue with the people who are in it. But when you have like this open ecosystem where anyone can join and you're not paying any dues, and it doesn't matter if you have 1 subscriber or 2 videos or haven't even hit record yet, and you consider yourself a part of this community, it's a really big thing. I don't even know if I would still call it community, to be honest. Like, it's a really big challenge.
Mhm.
And so the best way that they are addressing this is more scalable online forums, and they have added like 10,000 new support people, so people like us can get in touch with them via live chat and things like that. But in terms of the community elements, I think there's not one big YouTube creator community anymore like it was when I first got started. Everyone knew everyone. Instead, there's like all these little pockets of like community, some of them be like TubeBuddy has like their community, and vidIQ has their community, and Video Creators
Right.
has its community, and there's a Clean My Space community, and it's kind of like it's grown so much that there's these different Vid Summit, for example. You guys, VidCon is like the community is kind of like there's pockets of
Right.
communities now. But YouTube as a whole, I really do think they're doing everything that they know to do. And I know those people genuinely do care as much as people say that they don't, and the flack that they take. And it's not just a job to them. It's part of like their personal mission. Like they really deeply care about this stuff. So, but it's a big challenge.
Well, it's a monumental challenge. No one had any kind of basis. And not only did they have to like help the audience out with kind of showing the way that this platform worked, they had to bring all of the brands in and like get them accustomed to like these people who are used to 30-second commercials on television, try to like educate them. And we got called on, or at least Melissa got called on early on, like 2011, 2012, to go and sit at Google offices in New York City, or YouTube offices, to talk to like Procter and Gamble, to be like, hey, here's how this platform works. I'm an influencer, and it's not like here's your product and here's a commercial. It's figuring out ways to. So it has been. And I remember they went through and they put billboards in Times Square at the time it was like Michelle Phan and Lily Singh and all of these stuff, and they really got behind it. And then there was a time that they had a bunch of celebrities like Robin Williams take on YouTube channels, and they've tried their best, and some things have worked, some things haven't worked. Clearly, everybody likes to complain about it, but it's a massive platform, and you can't just like canopy the entire audience as like this is the YouTube audience. Like you said, like each sub audience now is so large that you can't even kind of canopy that.
Yeah. Yeah, the community is important to them. And the way I feel personally, and this is probably just because of the position I'm in, I don't think this is normal, but I do get to be in meetings with YouTube about every other week or so at the least. Sometimes it's every week. And I do get to work with different product teams and bunch of NDA stuff. I just, gotta be careful what I say, but I do have more contact with them than most people, but I think it's just me and my position and the relationships I've built there over the years. And more so than that has to do with like the broader community as a whole. So I personally feel well supported. But
I think one thing YouTube is doing really well in the past couple of years is communicating with creators a lot better than they used to. Now they have like a YouTube creators channel where they're keeping you updated on all the new stuff, and it's friendly, and it's not like just somebody reading a script, and it comes off a lot better. And that's what a lot of people were asking for, because in my experience, every time somebody experiences trouble or they're losing views or anything, they're always quick to just blame, oh, well, YouTube is just screwing this up again, and YouTube is out to get, there's this animosity of like YouTube is just out to get you somehow, and I just don't think that's the case.
No, they've been wanting to do stuff like the Creator Insider channel for a long time, and it was the legal departments holding it back. But then someone higher up, Ariel is his name, just decided to push it through. And we're like, we're doing it. We're going to ask for forgiveness later.
It's just, it's mind blowing. It took that long. I remember they used to have a blog at UTN. It was like, wait a second, this is a video platform, and they're blogging.
Yeah. It took someone pretty high up on the vice president level to kind of just push it through. But I understand you get to be that big of a company. There's a lot of risks, and you got to cover your butt, and you just can't have people going out there just saying stuff just haphazardly, Did
you ever go down the slide at YouTube?
No, they don't let us. Yeah,
really?
It's only for the employees. I guess.
I didn't go down. I've been to YouTube a couple times. I don't know. I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to. I just didn't.
Oh, I
saw
asked
it.
and they said no.
Oh, really? It's probably a liability thing.
Well, there's your first.
Probably.
You shouldn't. You just they can't stop you halfway down, can they?
Well, I don't think I had access to the top of it with my.
Oh,
pass.
that's where they
so,
got you.
Right. Yeah.
The security there's pretty tight. I don't mean tight in a good way. I mean tight is very strict.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap it up here, Tim. Is there what do you want to plug for people? What do you want people to do after hearing you on our podcast? This is your call to action.
I want you to go watch Steve Ramsey's vlogging videos.
Look at this.
And I want you to go watch Melissa's latest. I want you to buy. Oh wait, I don't know if did you talk about the thing that's coming out?
Yeah, the Maker's
that you
Mop.
mailed? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was a thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go buy the
what mop should they buy, Tim Schmoyer?
The Maker's Mop.
You're supposed to be plugging your own stuff.
We have one. I don't need to plug my stuff.
Everybody knows where to find Tim.
If you want to find, well, I just don't feel like it's kind of like that's what I'm here for. But if you guys want, if anybody wants to, you can go to videocreators.com and get started with a little free guide to help get your channel growing. But we also have our own podcast at just search iTunes or whatever. I don't know, podcast places. It's the end of the day, Friday. Running out of words. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, all the places. Just search for Video Creators and we'll pop up. And my team and I do a podcast every week where we just talk in depth about how do you grow on YouTube, how do you develop a business around it. And Steve and Chad have both been on mine. It's been a few years though.
Yeah.
You should.
You and I had dinner for my birthday last year. In fact, I had dinner with you and Melissa. Chad, you weren't invited. I'm sorry.
Why wasn't I? How do I find out about this?
You were with Riley.
You had to watch.
Probably was. That's true. That's right.
Yeah.
It was a weird dinner. We went out to dinner. We were the only people in this restaurant.
It's like a hotel restaurant across the street, so the event wasn't happening there. But it was good though.
It was very good. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I remember we had a meaningful conversation. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I remember leaving thinking like that wasn't just chit chat. There was something more meaningful. Oh, I think I started talking about like taking a day of rest and then we started talking about primal branding stuff, I think.
Right.
And then we started talking about like online safety and things like that. So if I remember correct, I just remember walking away thinking like that was a good conversation.
It was a very good conversation. And well, Chad, you missed out.
I really did. I feel like
you have to ask Melissa about it.
She's like, "What? That happened?"
Yeah, Tim, man, this was a blast having you on here. I mean, I could talk for a lot longer with you. You're always an interesting person to talk to, and I'm glad we could pick your brain on some of this YouTube stuff without getting into how to make your own thumbnails. You probably get asked about that a lot, don't you?
How do we get 1,000 subscribers quickly?
No, actually, thankfully, now that we work with more established creators, we don't get the how do I make a thumbnail. We might get how do I optimize my thumbnails, but you don't get the how to make them anymore.
That's what I need. I need to optimize. I'll have to talk to you about optimizing my thumbnail.
You have my number. Give me a call sometime. Fine.
I've been doing A/B testing. We both have. We've been sharing our A/B tests with each other. So it's fun. My variation almost always wins. My first instinct, B is always the winner. Really? I don't understand. My first instinct just is horrible.
It's a horrible first instinct.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what your process is for figuring it out. But yeah, we've been doing. Now that someone on my team's handling it, we have a little part of our weekly staff team meeting every week where we talk about the videos that are on the docket for me to shoot and draft title thumbnail ideas before I shoot them. And then, so I know what thumbnail to capture and stuff.
Right.
And then she makes a few of them, and we haven't been using TubeBuddy's A/B. We have in the past, but now we just kind of keep an eye on the real-time analytics and be like, oh, this is not performing well, and we'll just switch it out. But yeah, to each his own. Whatever works, not a right or wrong way to do it.
Oh, I remember I saw a video from Michael from Vsauce. This was when the Video Creators YouTube channel the YouTube Creators YouTube channel kind of first started, and they had they asked Michael from Vsauce like what the one piece of it, and his one piece of advice was know what your thumbnail and your title is going to be before you shoot your video.
That's right.
And I'd never thought about that before. And I'm really, really, really heavy duty into thumbnails and titles, but I'd never thought about it that way before. Being aware of it just seemed like such a well, I'll figure that out in post. I'll figure it out when I scroll through and find the thing that works best. It's really interesting to know what that is going to be within the content. It really makes it so much more relevant.
Yeah, because the title and the thumbnail set the expectation that the viewer clicks for, and then the opening seconds need to either create more tension in the brain from what prompted them to click, or immediately like you're in the right spot. And the only way you can do that, well, I shouldn't say the only way, but the best way you can do that is by determining the title and thumbnail before hitting record, and then craft the opening seconds to match it exactly. Not match it. You know what I mean?
Fall in line with it.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to just repeat yourself, because that'll just, if it's like how to clean your bathroom floor, and then the video opens with Melissa saying, today I'm going to teach you how to clean your bathroom floor. People are like, I know. That's why I'm here. Get on with it.
We're jamming all the tips in at the very, very
there
end
you go.
of the video. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, and we hope to have you on again in the future. I'm glad you were a perfect representation for our very first guest. We're talking about YouTube.
It's very true.
Yeah,
and you have an open invitation, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Well, next week then. How about that?
Have a great week.
little too soon, Tim. Back off now.
Chad and Steve and Tim have a podcast.
There you go.
Hey, have a great weekend, Tim.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.